right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker podcast brought to you by Bangtail Whiskey. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
Tell you what, they've said to upgrade as we go on, and that's the worst thing we ever did. Cameras are giving me fits.
Well,
Monday.
You got a $1,000 camera and a $3 person. What do you expect? It's going to be a little smarter with you.
That's true.
With us today from Hunt County, Texas, retired game warden, Mr. Benny Richards, star of Lone Star Law. Because I would say you're one of the stars of the show, don't you think?
You asking me? I kind of think maybe I'm one of the more popular ones.
Yeah, I'd say you're the star. You and the big boy from East Texas, and he ain't going to outrun anybody, and I can't think of his name, but I really like him a lot too.
Justin? Ed?
Yes. He ain't going to win a foot race with nobody, but he's a good guy.
Yeah.
How does that change your job whenever the cameras get on you? Does it change your job at all in your mind? Or does it change your mindset at all? Or what's it like riding with cameras?
I'll be honest with you, it didn't change. It didn't change the way I conducted my business at all. I told those guys early on, I said, y'all are on for the ride. I'm not going to change anything I say, anything I do. You're just there to film it. And it was all realistic. And it really, once the day got going, I started getting calls and getting into it. I forgot they were there. So it really didn't change anything I did on a day-to-day basis.
So they did a good job of, listen, when I'm doing this, just get off into the back, let me do what I'm doing, and just capture it. They did a good job of disappearing.
Yeah, they did. They were professional about it, and they did do a good job just kind of hiding into the background.
I think
they never got in my way more than once or twice.
I think the show has really shown a great aspect of what y'all's jobs, the reality of what your job is. Everybody thinks all you do is go around and bother drinkers on the boats, which we need more of that going on, or you're giving some poor guy a ticket for not having a fishing license. They don't see what you guys do. And that show still don't highlight the 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning waiting on the side of the road for 3 hours for something to happen.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, every game warden across the state's got you're in a different part of the state, so your job may be a little bit different from day to day. But we get a lot. They edit to that, and they really like those calls where they get the little bird that fell out of the nest, or somebody caught a frog and they want it relocated, or a possum or something. And that is part of our job, but it's a very small part, not as much as they portray it on TV. Yeah, I wish they had more of the 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning calls on there. That would really show you what we do.
That's kind of like the live patrol that they have, and we've had Sticks on with us before. Is on the live patrol, they shut it off live at 11 o'clock. Well, hell, shit's just getting good. Yeah. I wish they had it would go on till 2 or 3 in the morning. That's when the good stuff happens, and that's what we want to see.
That's
in your book, and I read both of your books. Very, very good books. Great read, and he's got 2 books out, and I recommend you going to Amazon and buying them. Do you want them to buy them on Kindle, or do you want them to buy the hardback or the softback? Which one makes you more money?
I don't really. I honestly, I'm not in it for the money. I just wanted to get the stories out there. Makes me no difference. A lot of people like the Kindle, but the hardback or the paperback is available on Amazon. That's the easiest way to get it.
I've done it on Kindle, and I read both books. Very, very good read. And a couple of stories in there I really, really like. But one of the things that you said was you're a shit magnet. And that when they wanted you to be on this show, it's because you're a shit magnet. Every area has an officer that's a shit magnet, and that's the guy that you want to be around. Are you the shit magnet for that area in East Texas?
Am or was?
Was.
During my almost 25-year career as a game warden, I dug and I looked for stuff. I kept my eyes open. Like you said, I learned that I kind of like working deep nights. And when you do that and you're really out there looking and paying attention, you're gonna fall into shit. And I don't know that I was so much of a magnet, but I was out there when it was happening. So, yeah, I had more of my share of stuff come along that maybe somebody that worked 8 to 5 didn't get into.
One of the things, one of the stories in the book was the big drug bust y'all did, or the marijuana fields up on the, I forgot what river that is that y'all dealt with over there a lot, but the Sulphur River. And you had the big drug bust, and you said they used a credit card from a wealthy guy in North Dallas. Did they ever arrest him for any of them charges?
I have no idea, because we we actually went in and found it, and we were there. Tried to make an arrest, but everybody got away. And then we helped dismantle the dope field. And at that point, the DEA took over, and that information that you just said, I got that secondhand from. Wait a minute, my dogs are. But anyway, I got that information secondhand from someone who was kind of keeping up with it. I have no idea if they ever made an arrest or not.
It's hard to believe the work people will do to break the law, because those marijuana fields, from the way you described it, they had basically a little camp they had built there with full-time people living there and everything.
It was more like a village. When I stumbled into the middle of that thing, I really had a hard time believing I was in the United States of America, because this was something right out of a movie, and I was standing in the middle of it. And it took me a couple of minutes to digest what I was looking at.
And the woods are just so thick there that you can't see it from the air or nothing hardly.
Yeah, it's just like a jungle. I mean, it's the closest thing we have in Texas to a jungle. It's the Sulphur River bottoms over kind of east of Mount Pleasant.
That's an amazing part.
Now, were you an outlaw growing up, or how did you become this shit magnet? Because I've always seen that the best cops and game wardens kind of had this little rebellious,
had a little outlaw in them. But
does that fit you at all?
In all honesty, no. And I did love to hunt and fish. If my eyes were open, I was out hunting or fishing. If they were closed, I was dreaming about hunting and fishing. So, no, I didn't really break the law that much, but I was out there a lot, and I saw a lot of stuff growing up. I mean, I couldn't tell you when I shot my first duck or deer, but I was in grade school, and I just had a passion for it, and I was out in the woods or out on the water just constantly. And but as far as breaking the law, no, I'd get my little handbook and I'd study it and find out what the limits were and what the rules were, and pretty much try to go by it. Now you guys know as well as I do, when you're out there hunting, some things happen.
Yeah.
Maybe flying and you got one more bird for a limit, and a flock of blue-winged teal fly by and you shoot it into them and 4 hit the water.
Right.
Hey, you got a little there. It was unusual, but it happens.
Yeah, it happens. And it's just part of it.
We are blessed with 2 really good game wardens out here.
They have common sense.
They have a lot of common sense, and we are so lucky with that, because it makes a big difference. And I noticed on that show, the guys, most of them use a lot of common sense. And they're not after the guy who makes a legitimate mistake. They're looking for the poacher. And there's a lot of poachers out there. In your book, you talk about Eugene, and we don't have to say no names or nothing, but we'll just call him Eugene because I think of his name. And every county's got a Eugene. Explain what a Eugene is.
A Eugene or a Cecil, they're those guys that just, no matter how many times you catch them, how many times they get arrested, no many times, how hard you try to educate them and, get them on the right track, they're going to find a way to screw it up. And you're just constantly, about once a month, y'all having an unofficial meeting on the side of the road or behind a barn or somewhere. That's what a Eugene is. They're just a screw up.
It's crazy to me that you'll see the same people over and over again. It's just like, did we not just talk about this 6 months ago? And here we are again.
Let me tell you, just recently, I mean, I'm retired now, but I am still a game warden. I'm a special game warden, which means, for lack of a better word, I'm kind of in reserve. I'm not on active duty, but I'm still out looking and watching. And here, probably a couple of months ago, I was out at my property in Red River County, and I saw something and I knew wasn't right. And I ended up going over there, making contact with somebody, called the local game warden, and we arrested him. It was Eugene. I had arrested this guy, same spot, at least 3 or 4 times in the same, pretty much the same situation. He just didn't learn. Got out of prison, came back doing it again.
Just
so
amazes me.
What was it? He was just trespassing, or what was he doing? Can you tell us?
He cut the lock off of a gate and went into a place and started trespassing at night. And now he says he was fishing, and there is a lake there. But he's also been known to steal stuff too. So who knows what he was doing, but he wasn't where he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Another thing too, and we live in a really small community, is people from out of town don't realize every piece of property, every barn, everything. Somebody drives by there every day and notices anything that's out of place. I drive the same dirt roads all the time, and I call my game warden or my cop or my sheriff anytime I see something that don't look right. But people from out of town, they think, oh, nobody's out here, they won't notice. We notice more shit out here than you do in the big city.
That's true. I always get tickled when I move back over closer here to Hunt County. I got closer to the Metroplex, and it's more metropolitan. You're getting closer to Dallas, and there's a lot of people that don't even know what a game warden is. So a lot of these people, the dopers or whatever, they say, well, we can't do our thing here in town because we'll get caught by the police. Let's run out to the country. And they got a favorite barn or dirt road, and their eyes get about as big as the bottom of fruit jars whenever they see that green truck pull up and the guy gets out in the cowboy hat with a badge on. I was like, ruh-roh. So I'm game warden. What y'all doing out here? And it just kind of goes downhill from there.
While we're talking about that, recap your story about when you was the game warden in Dalhart and you and your son were in the snowstorm. This is a great story.
Yeah, that was one of the stupidest things I ever did. It was pheasant season, and my son had been wanting to go, and I was busy because the pheasant season's short. And like, any game warden that really likes his job, I was working a lot, trying to make cases and keep everybody on the straight and narrow. And so I didn't really take him as much as I should have, but I promised him, I said, I'll come get you after school and I'll take you out to the field and we'll go hunt. So we did. I picked him up, and he got out of school, and we didn't have a lot of daylight left. So I was in a hurry, and we left without getting the proper clothing, and didn't have a cell phone, or I left it at home. And he jumped in the car. We stopped by the local convenience store, got something to snack on, out to the field we go. Well, it had snowed and melted and refroze and snowed a little bit more and refroze. And we were way out, probably 20 miles from town on a lonely dirt road. Nobody lived on this road. And I was kind of in a hurry, and I went around a corner, and the little S10 Blazer we were driving, I slid off in the ditch in a snowbank. Got stuck. And I tried to dig it out with my hands, but it was just so cold. I didn't have any gloves. I saw it was a fight and a losing battle. So we started walking to town. And about that time, one of those blue northers that y'all know about in the Texas Panhandle, where you see that big blue cloud coming, a 25-mile-an-hour wind right ahead of it. Temperature drops about 40 degrees in 10 minutes. Well, that hit. And we were both freezing to death walking to town. Nobody knew where we was at because we didn't tell everybody where we was going. And lo and behold, here come a truck down the road that I didn't expect to see. And he pulled up and offered us a ride, and we jumped in. And the first thing I noticed when we jumped in is there were two pheasants laying on the floorboard, and he had a 20-gauge shotgun between his legs, and there were holes up on the dash. And it didn't take me long to figure out what this guy was out here in the country doing. But at that point, I was just thankful to have a ride. And we were and we got about halfway town, and a pheasant ran across the road, and he threw the gun out the window. And he didn't get that one. He tried. And my son and I said, you do this a lot? And he goes, nah. I said, aren't you afraid about the game warden? He said, there ain't no game wardens out here. And my son looked up at me, and I didn't say a word. Anyway, we drove all the way to town, and I told him how to get to my house. And when we were going down the road on the street where I lived, I parked my patrol truck on the side of the road in the alley. And as he got closer, I noticed when he saw that truck, he kind of got his forehead kind of wrinkled up and his eyes kind of squinted. I said, yeah, that's right down there by that green truck. And he got real quiet, and we pulled up in front of my house, and he looked at me and said, are you a game warden? I go, yes, sir. I am. And anyway, I opened the door, and my son he shot out of there like a rocket and went in the house. And he just ducked his head and started shaking his head and apologizing. Well, what was I going to do? I mean, the guy might have just saved my kid's life from freezing to death. So I just told him, I said, man, this better not ever happen again. And we're going to call this even. Yeah. He said, yes, sir.
Yeah,
we shook hands. He drove off into the distance.
We're square here. But if I catch this again,
did you ever see him again?
Never did. No.
So how far out were y'all when this
20 miles?
How far of a walk would you have had to have gone?
20 miles from town. And if you're familiar with the Dalhart area, when you get out of the city limits, there's nothing but prairie dog holes.
It's flat.
I mean, occasional antelope or a prairie dog, but there are very few people, unless you catch a farmer on a tractor or I mean, some of those places you can lay down in the road and take a 2-hour nap and feel pretty confident you're not going to get run over.
Well, and there's nowhere to hole up either. There's no trees really to speak of. I mean, you know, some places you could find a barn and maybe start a fire or a nice hedgerow tree line or something. Ain't nothing like that in Dalhart. Like, it's flat country.
Was Terrell Cook guiding waterfowl hunts back then up there?
Who's that?
Terrell Cook, was he running goose hunts up there at that time?
That name doesn't ring any bells
There
with
used to
me.
be an outfitter up there a long time ago, a guy I was friends with. You got another story about that area that I really liked. Your story about finding the people in the house in the middle of nowhere.
The Ghostbusters?
Yes, Ghostbusters, yes.
Devil worship, or whatever they were, yeah. Yeah, it was, I think it was on like a 4th of July, and they had sent me over to Lake Meredith over at Dumas, east of Dumas, to work the lake. And it was late at night when I got off, and I went back home, and I was taking a shortcut through the country. And here again, we're around Dalhart, so it's flat, and there's nothing out there but prairie. And there's a lot of homesteads out there that were abandoned back in the Dust Bowl days. And they're just houses just sitting out in the middle of the prairie. They had, you know, no one lives in them, hadn't lived in them for 50 or 60 years. But anyway, I drove by one of those that was close to the road, and it's just like what you said. You notice anything that's out of place. And when I went by, it was kind of a full moon night, and I saw something caught my eye, and I looked, and I saw 2 vehicles pulled around behind this old homestead. I said, well, that's not right. So I went down the road, blacked out, turned around, and came back and was sitting in the road watching. And I could see flashlights kind of dancing around inside this abandoned house. So I called the sheriff's deputy, and let's say be it Hartley, which is in Hartley. He was the only deputy on duty, and told him, hey, you need to come out here, because I didn't know what was going on. I figured it was drug related, to tell you the truth. So I just sat there. Well, before he could get there, they started coming out and loading up this van and this little car. And so I said, well, I can't wait on him. So I go up there, red and blue, jump out, game warden, what's going on? And all these people are dressed in complete black and pretty weird, though, heavy on the makeup, even the guys. And when I asked them what they're doing, they said they were trying to make contact with spirits.
Oh, shit.
And that's when they got my attention. And I said, what are you talking about? Well, anyway, they ended up saying, yeah, follow me in here. And so I went in the house, and sure enough, they had motion sensors and cameras and microphone set up, and they were trying to make contact with the not living, the spirits or whatever. I don't know what the term they used, but kind of strange.
Yeah.
But the deputy finally showed up, and he kind of took stock of the situation. He said, hey, y'all need to go over here and over in Sherman. He said, there's a haunted house, haunted like hell. The damn ghosts you can see them. And then, of course, that got their attention. And he drew a big elaborate map, and I'm just off to the side going, damn. And when he got through, they left. And I said, tell me more about this haunted house. He goes, there ain't no damn haunted house over there. I just don't want them in my county. He said, so he'd been around the block a time or two. It was pretty good.
Yeah, he just wanted them out of there.
Now, this leads into my next story that you talk about. The lady that calls the game warden office that sees seeing premonitions of a little girl drowning. Yeah,
that was one of the stranger things that's ever happened. That was I was in every month at the time. The process was at the end of the month, the game wardens would go into the office and turn their paperwork in, kind of catch up with the other game wardens, and go eat dinner or something. Well, anyway, it was the first of the month, and I was up there turning my paperwork in. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been there. And I just so happened I was standing by one of the secretaries, and the phone rang, and she was talking to someone on the other end. I could tell by the look on her face it was kind of a strange call, and she was saying things about Red River County, which was where I was stationed. And she turned around to me, and she handed me the phone. She said, "Do you want to take this call?" And when I got on the line, it was a woman. She was just beside herself, saying she was having a premonition or visions of a little girl that was drowning in the Red River. And here again, I was thinking, okay, there's some drug use or some alcohol involved in this. This woman's spaced out, and she kept asking me if there was a long bridge over the Red River in Red River County. I go, yes, there is. And she said, you need to drive there as fast as you can, and this little girl's drowning. Yeah. I didn't, whatever. But she was just adamant. And Anyway, I'll take care of it, ma'am. And I hung up the phone, didn't put much stock into it. And I left, and I didn't have a lot to do that afternoon. So I drove to the Red River, and I went to that bridge that led over into Oklahoma, and I drove across it. Nobody on the right, nobody on the left, went over the Oklahoma side, nobody around. I said, yeah, she's a crazy lady. Wasted my time. So about maybe a week, maybe 10 days later, I'm up in that area of the county again, and I got a call about a bald eagle that was supposedly injured up there on the riverbank. And I went up there, and that turned out to be a false call too. But while I was up there, I thought I'd take the time to go run across the river again. Well, when I started onto the bridge, I noticed across the river in Oklahoma, there was a van, and there was two women and a bunch of kids out in the river. And that's strange because nobody swims there. So when I got about halfway across the bridge, I noticed one of the other descriptors, she said it was going to be a blonde-haired girl, about 7 years old, with blue eyes, wearing a white shirt. That's what she originally told me. Well, when I get across there, I see these kids, and one of these little girls is wearing a white shirt. So anyway, I drove across the bridge, and they drive four-wheelers and everything down there, so I was able to get under the bridge. And I guess these women saw me coming and thought they were in trouble, and they were getting out of the river as I pulled up. And one of the kids was a little blonde-headed girl with blue eyes and a white shirt. And they all piled in this van, and of course, the woman came up there and said, "Are we in trouble?" And I go, "No, you're not in trouble." She said they were on some kind of a mission trip or something, going home, and they just wanted to play in the river. And I said, "Well, you might not want to play in that river right there because there's whirlpools, and that's not where people swim." They said, "Well, we didn't know. We're leaving." So they left. But who knows?
That could have been it.
Make your old hair stand up, though.
That could have been it.
Yeah, I've thought about that. I said, had I not showed up and them saw me and get out of the river, who's just, I don't know. It's just one of those strange things.
I mean, you can't say that. So now, do you think that lady was still crazy, or are you kind of like, well, maybe she was onto something?
Batshit crazy.
No, I don't. The jury's still out on that. I mean, I never talked to her again, but I'm not going to call her crazy.
I mean, is that bridge something that everybody knows about? Like, do you think that lady, let's say she is crazy, is that a bridge that she could have crossed some other time and knew that it was there, or is that something that's kind of hard to find?
That's a big bridge.
No, it's the main one. The 37 crosses from Texas over to Idabel, Oklahoma, so it's well known. I mean,
but
it's the only crossing for about 60 miles.
Does that part always have water in it? Because like when we cross the Red River, the poor thing's dry right now.
Once it gets past Texoma, it's got water all the time.
It's pretty sketchy right now. But
there are a lot. There's more sand than there is water most of the time, but there's always water.
And where there is water, like you said, there's whirlpools and stuff like that. So could be true.
Yeah, timber right under water, concrete. There's a lot of hazards right under the water.
I just thought of something else. He's in the county where we had a guy on that was a Bigfoot guy. He's from your part of the woods.
Yeah, I used to get those calls.
Have you ever seen anything that you couldn't figure out what it was out in the woods ever?
No.
How many bears have you seen? A lot?
No. One
bear.
It was laying in the back of a pickup eating the honey buns when I pulled up at about 2:00 in the morning, and it jumped out and ran off. There was a pig farmer, and he would go by a bread factory, and they'd get the day-old bread, and they'd just give it to him to get rid of it, and he was taking it and feeding it to his hogs. Well, he got back late one day, and he had a whole bed of his truck was full of honey buns and crackers and bread, and he just put a tarp over it. Well, that night he heard a commotion, and his dogs were barking him outside, and there was a black bear in the back of his truck. And he called me, and when I got there, the bear was still eating honey buns. But it jumped out and ran off. That's the only one I actually saw. And I got a lot of game cam pictures.
Yeah, because right up in Oklahoma, north of you, not very far, there's a bunch of bears now.
Yeah, whenever the river gets down low like this in a drought, they'll come across the river. In a normal year when it's wet and there's a lot of flow, we don't have too many sightings, but when it's drought like this, they'll come across the river.
So no Bigfoot ever. You have never seen any Bigfoots?
No.
That's kind of a common occurrence with everybody, I've noticed.
Yeah. I mean, you get that. So you're gonna say no Bigfoot out there. You're putting your hat on it. No Bigfoot.
No Bigfoot. 100% no Bigfoot.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen at night?
Chupacabra.
Oh man, you're asking me. I've been a game warden for 25 years, and you're asking me what's the weirdest thing I've ever seen at night. God, I'd have to think about it. The weirdest thing. I mean, I don't.
Cross-dressing drug dealer or something. A cross-dressing drug dealer. You have to have seen some weird stuff.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Nothing comes to the top. I mean, it's just all the time. I mean, there wasn't a month goes by that I couldn't answer that question with something bizarre.
How long does it take you to adjust to? I mean, you're pretty much the only one. You're in some situations where if you call for help, it's 30 minutes. Like that's got to be in the back of your mind on some of these things.
If you know these cadets that they hire, that's the one thing they need to realize, that if they're doing their job as a game warden and doing it right, that sometimes it's going to be 3 o'clock in the morning and they're going to be on a road that has no name, 25 miles from the nearest help. So anything they get themselves into, they better be big enough to get themselves out of, because there's no help coming. And some counties have more than one game warden. For the majority of my career, I worked by myself. And by choice, I worked late at night, because that's, like we talked about earlier, that's where the felons and the bad guys, the bad people that really need to be caught, that's when they're out doing their thing. So, yeah, there was many a time when I got out of the truck and faced with a bad situation where you just have to use your common sense and your smarts and your experience. And there was times when you just had to back up, said this ain't the time. Right. Because it was a lot of dangerous encounters that I had.
Well, I mean, just something routine like going to check somebody's deer camp. You know, if you check them at the wrong time, if they're 2 bottles of whiskey deep, like you might catch them. They might be great people when they're sober, but game warden showed up and Earl over there is going to get lippy, and then that feeds into everybody else kind of getting lippy, and you can get into a bad situation. That's something that's going to check a deer camp. Something you do every day.
Yeah, happened more than once.
I'm not made out to do that, and I think that's something that a lot of game wardens need to realize. Make sure you got that makeup about you. Like, I wouldn't want to be in a situation 20 minutes from help and then shit hit the fan. It's not me.
I don't know. I never really worried about it. I just did it, and by the grace of God, I survived it. There might have been a couple of times one thing might have changed one thing. It might have turned out different. I might not have survived it, but I got lucky, and 25 years later, I lived to tell about it.
How many times do you run into that guy that says you're not a real police officer because you're a game warden?
Never a guy. It's always a girl.
I witnessed that one time up at our lodge. Ronnie, a guy we talked about him, our old game warden Ronnie, great guy. A guy did not have a federal duck stamp. And Ronnie was trying to explain to him. Well, the guy did not like to be explained anything. He knew more, and he just kept getting louder and louder with Ronnie. Well, they left from inside my office outside to the parking lot to have this conversation, and it was getting quite loud. And this guy's buddy comes in, and he goes, "Hey, you need to come out here and help him." Well, I'm thinking this guy's getting really rough with Ronnie, and I look out there, and Ronnie's putting this guy in cuffs. And he goes, "You got to do something about it." I said, "Your friend's mouth is overloading his ass." The guy talked himself into going to jail before this was all said and done. But the guy kept saying, called him Barney 5, you're not a real cop, you're this and that. And I thought, what the fuck are you doing?
What are you trying to accomplish?
All you're doing is digging yourself into a deeper hole. There's nothing you've done now that's going to make this man who was just going to give you a ticket decide to take you out of them cuffs and let you hunt the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that sticks out in my mind, I've had that happen a few times, but once I was on patrol over by Big Creek Lake over at Delta County. And this car, it was a woman driving, and I don't even remember what the violation was, but I stopped her and I walked up, and she had the window rolled up and the door locked. And of course I tapped on the window, and she just looked at me, and I tapped on it again. I said, "Roll the window down." She goes, "No." I go, "What do you mean no? Roll the window down." And she said, "No, you're not a police officer." So we went through that whole thing for about 3 or 4 minutes. And I thought, all right, whatever, I'll play this game this one time. So I called the local deputy, and he shows up. He goes up there and knocks on the window. She rolls the window down about that far. "What do you want?" And "Need your driver's license and whatever." And she hands it through the window. And he asked me, he said, why aren't you talking to this officer? Why won't you roll down the window? And she said, he's not a real police officer. So, and I was just in one of those moods where I didn't want to deal with it that day. I had bigger fish to fry. So I let it go. But yeah, I see that every now and then.
Because I mean, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but drugs and alcohol and all that stuff, if you come across that, I mean, you can make an arrest.
He's
right?
a highway patrolman, basically.
That also does game. That also does.
You're a state police officer.
Game warden. In Texas, the game warden is the state police.
Right.
We can enforce any books, family law, penal code, just whatever. And we do from time to time. That's not your focus, but when you run into it, you take care of it. And I don't know how much of that show y'all watched, but there's one episode that everybody always asks me about, where I had a forest ranger call me up and almost in tears and said he was up on the Forest Service land up in the north end of my county and said, hey, I just went in there and these people were illegally camped. And I told them, and they told me to get lost. And I asked her for an ID, and it was a woman. And she said she wouldn't give the officer her ID. And he asked, he said, will you come up? What do you think I should do? And I was like, are you really asking me this? And he said, will you come up here and take care of this? And I said, I sure will. So I went up there, same thing. I went up there and said, hey, y'all are illegally camped. She tried that same thing on me. Said, no, I'm not going to give you my ID. And her husband ran and got in the tent. He wouldn't give me his ID. And I said, y'all got 30 seconds. And y'all going to be eating a bologna sandwich in the county jail. You make your decision, make it right now, because I ain't got time for this foolishness. Well, I got her driver's license pretty quick, and then I got her husband out. And I got the notice, and they had just kind of set up a homestead there. And there was a lot of trash and everything else. And we got that cleaned up. But the last thing she told me, I told her, I said, all right, y'all have a good day. I need you to move your camp, but y'all have a good day. And she said, no, you've made us mad, and now we're leaving Texas.
Shit.
As if that was supposed to affect me. So I said, well, lady, we got highways that run east, west, north, and south. You pick one and have a good day.
I am not in the mood for your shit, lady.
There's a video out right now of an officer in it's in Atlanta. It's the wealthy neighborhood, whatever it is, Bucky. There's a part of Atlanta that's trying to get away. They're trying to unannex themselves from the city because the crime rate is terrible there. Officer goes in, and there's a black couple in a parking lot, and he asks for their ID, and the park closed at 11 o'clock, and this is like midnight. And he tells the guy to come over, and he says, you need to sign this citation. And the guy goes, well, what if I don't sign it? He said, if you don't sign it, I'm going to take you to jail. It's not admission to guilt. It's just saying you'll come and come to court. So the guy signs it. Well, then the lady comes over. Well, oh, shit, here we go. She starts, I'm not signing it. What's your badge number? What's this? Well, the video you're seeing on TV right now is a 15-second clip of them wrestling her to the fucking ground. Mm-hmm. Well, when the Atlanta PD released the whole 8-minute deal, and it shows he goes over and over and explains to her. Well, once he starts putting cuffs on, then she'll sign the ticket and stuff. They took her to jail. But, making it sound like the officer was wrong. The officer wasn't wrong. He asked you to comply. You don't comply. And that's the common denominator. And 99% of anything that happens with an officer is people do not comply and do what they're told. Mm-hmm. So she.
Like you, I watch these videos and it makes me want to pull my hair out because these people, the police, this, police, that. If you would just simply do what he asked you to do.
Yes. More
than 99% of the time. I mean, everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be good. Just do what the officer says. But it's when you start mouthing and running and fighting with them, that's when really bad things happen.
Well, and that's not the place to do it. Like if you've got a complaint about how this was conducted, go to court. It's all on footage. It's all on film. Play it and get in front of a judge, and then maybe you can do something. But when he's got you pulled over is not the time for a debate.
We have an old game warden that owns property that we've leased for 20 years.
Right.
He's a retired game warden. Well, he went to his family farm to go check it one day, just see what was going on. He's in the deal. There's some guys hunting on it. At that time, he didn't let anybody hunt. For years, nobody hunted on it before we got to lease it. So anyways, Jerry goes down there and checks this old boy, and he goes, where's your license at? By God, it's in my truck right now. And the guy gets smart with him. Who gave you permission to hunt on it? The damn landowner gave me permission. That's who. Now get out of here. You're running our hunt. He goes, no, I want to see your driver's license and your hunting license. No, I'm not doing it. Boy just kept arguing with him. He said, who gave you permission? I said, the landowner. To get out of here. He said, well, that's kind of funny. I own this land, and I don't remember giving you permission. Anyways, the guy complained. to Austin about how he got treated by this game warden. You know, it's the biggest bunch of shit ever. I have zero tolerance for people like this.
You know, a long time ago, I decided, I have very little patience, admittedly. I've got some patience. But when I was a police officer before I became a game warden for 3 years over near Dallas. But I figured out from the beginning that, I was going to treat everybody like they treated me, with respect. And when I get out of the car and I go up to anybody tells you any difference, wrong. I'm smiling, handshake, whatever. I'm just there to take care of, do my job, take care of business, treat everybody with respect if they treat me with respect. But if they start getting mouthy with me, I might get a little mouthy back. If they start cussing me, they're definitely going to get cussed back. I'm going to slap the shit out of him. Yeah. So I'm going to treat everybody the way they treated me, and I don't expect them to, bend over because I'm wearing a badge. Just treat me like they would like to be treated. And that worked out for me pretty good. I got some complaints along the way. Most of them were all unfounded. But I didn't care. My goal at night was not to be locked, not to be approved of. It was to make it home at night alive. And so that was my focus.
Yeah. What made you want to switch from being a police officer to go to the Game Warden Academy?
Well, the police officer deal was just a bump in the road. I applied for the Game Warden Academy. Long story short, I applied for the Game Warden Academy in 92. And at the time, they were only running academies about every 2.5 years. So I applied. I made it to the final interview. Thought I was going to get hired, but I didn't. But I didn't let that faze me. I said, okay, well, what can I do for myself to put me in a better light the next go around? And I said, well, I need law enforcement experience. So I applied for Richardson, got hired, and I was a police officer over there just short of 3 years. And it helped me immensely. When I went to the academy, the Game Warden Academy, I'd already been a police officer for 3 years. So when these people were in there cramming for tests, studying, I knew that stuff like the back of my hand, a lot of it.
Did you like it?
And when I hit the ground running. I'd been making arrests and writing citations for 3 years, very comfortable doing it. So, it helped me.
Is that common? Do you see a lot of guys make the switch, or most game wardens have only been game wardens in their life? Or do they always seem to have some sort of law enforcement background?
In my academy class and some of the other classes I'm familiar with, I'm going to say probably 20% of the people been prior officers. 80% hadn't, some of them had been doing construction. Some of them were teachers. We had somebody that was a banker, just all walks of life, really.
No.
But I'd say about 20% that go in were previous officers.
Now, we're facing a big time game warden shortage right now, aren't we?
That I can't answer. I'm kind of out of the loop now, and I'll put it this way, my personal opinion, we've got a very big shortage of quality candidates to become game wardens.
Right.
I bet I'm sure that's true. That's the same with all police departments everywhere. It's hard to hire a police officer.
Oh, there's every go around, there's several thousand people hold up their hands and say, I want to be game wardens. And then after the physical, they do give you the physical test, that weeds out some of them. And then they do the interview, and that weeds out a lot of them. And then when they do the background, that weeds out a lot more. And then finally they get down to a pool of applicants that, they're comfortable with. They make the final selections from that.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
But there's lots of people that want to be game wardens, but very few that are actually qualified.
Well, you take an old boy out and you leave him on the side of the road at 3:00 in the morning and make him sit. And if he's not scared of the dark and not scared to go talk to somebody by himself, that's the first thing, because I think it takes a big set of balls to be a game warden. Game wardens and highway patrolmen both. Out in the middle of nowhere by yourself a lot of times, in the middle of nowhere. And not a lot of backup sometimes, especially out here where we live.
Yeah. And let me back up a little bit. You're talking about quality game wardens. If you're going to be a quality game warden, your training starts when you're 5, 6 years old and you're following your grandfather and your dad out to a duck blind or a deer stand. That's when your training started. I'll give you an area. Okay, a new game warden comes out of the academy, and his first day he walks up to a boat ramp. Boat pulls up with 3 hunters in it, a john boat, and they got 17 ducks laying in the bottom of the boat of all assorted flavors. You got bluebills, teal, mallards, gadwalls, widgeon. They got a little bit of all, shovelers. if that game warden don't know what he's looking at, how's he going to enforce the law?
Right.
Because there's a bag, each one of those species has its own number. And some of them get by with it by just looking over there and going, yeah, okay, y'all been duck hunting. Let me see your duck stamp, whatever. And as long as they got that, they don't know what they're looking at.
Yeah. I've ID'd a few ducks.
What?
I've ID'd a few ducks for law enforcement.
Yeah, but there's weird hybrids and stuff out there right now. But no, you're exactly right.
Same way with fish.
Yeah.
I mean, if a bunch of fishermen pull up and they got some sand bass and then some largemouth bass and some, high fin blues and channel cat, everything's got its own back limit, crappie. If they look down there and say, well, you got a boat full of fish and they don't know what kind of fish, well, they can't really enforce the law effectively. I mean, the way it was written to be enforced.
Do they give y'all any kind of training on that? Like, if you're going to be, our game wardens, we're a very rich waterfowl county. We have a lot of waterfowl, the two counties, Knox and Haskell County. But if you go to King County or even further east
nothing.
Or west, there's no waterfowl at all. So do they try to give you training specific to what you might see, or is that something you have to do all on your own once you've been assigned?
And I may be wrong on this, but I can tell you, when I went to the academy and for years after that, you got one day of waterfowl identification. Some game wardens came in that were knowledgeable about the different waterfowl, and they'll bring a wing, and you'd have to pick out what wing went to what species, and they'd have some pictures or whatever. But you got a couple of hours training. That's it. That's not near enough. If you want to properly identify all that stuff, you needed to start when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, and hunting on your own and learning on your own.
I got a question for you.
That might be the same question I have.
No, mine's not about this. If you go ahead, if there's a follow up to this, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So let's say you have a hybrid duck, a mallard and a pintail. Well, I don't know what it is, but did we get our second pintail, or is it still one?
No, we still
this year?
won this year, I think.
You can only shoot one pintail. But if it's a hybrid mallard pintail cross, what is that classified as?
Whatever you say.
So if I say it's a mallard and I've got another pintail, I'm okay?
As far as I'm concerned,
okay.
you may call. You tell me what it is, and we're gonna start counting at what you tell me it is. You claim what it is, and then we'll start counting.
Okay. I just didn't know that.
I couldn't. You don't see that a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, I've killed a couple of those, but I had the same thing in Dalhart. I had a call one time, and a guy come up there, and he said, "I don't know what tag to use on this deer." And I go, "What do you mean?" He said, "I don't know if it's a mule deer or a white-tailed deer." And I was close by. I said, "Well, wait right there." And I went over there, and I'm thinking, what a dork. You don't know the difference between a mule deer and a white-tail. Well, I got over there, and I looked at it, and I go, "Well, I'm a dork too." Because I was looking at him and go, "Well, I don't know. It's half and half." And I told him, I said, "You pull whatever tag you feel comfortable with, make sure you get a tag on it," because it was obviously a mix between the two species of deer.
We had a couple of them up here, some forkhorns on them. My question has nothing to do with bag limits. My question is, and to me, it's a I don't even know the word to look for it. On y'all's show, there's a husband and wife game warden team that work together. That's got to be a miserable situation.
You're probably talking about the Baileys.
Yes.
Yeah, they're good folks.
I'm sure they're good folks. I can't imagine working with my wife when she's having to do something like that without being scared. First of all, I think it's a conflict of interest for any game warden. That would be hard to work with your wife as a game warden. First of all, you're your brother's keeper anyways. But if it's your wife, that's just got to be so much harder.
That would be the only thing that I would, I didn't really give it a lot of thought about that. But my deal was, I was working with my wife. We were both game wardens. Would be the safety part of it.
Yes.
I was, would be my attention would be divided all the time about, what's going over here. This is my wife. This ain't just anybody. This is my wife. And so, but you know what? I've worked with both of them, and they're quality game wardens. And if it works for them, it works for me.
Yeah, and they seem like great people. It just, to me, the state, I would think, wouldn't want them working together just because the aspect of being, because you're emotionally attached.
But how are you going to do that if you're the state? You can't make them split up. And
I'd make her the boss.
About 5 or 6 couples that are game wardens.
Wow.
A guy in my two the cadets in my graduating cadet class got married. I guess they're still married. I've lost track of them, but I can think of, I don't know, 5 or 6 couples in the state of Texas that are, married and working together.
I don't know of any highway patrol that's in that situation. I've known married couples in like Dallas PD and bigger police departments. They work different shifts or they're doing different things, but boy, just would scare the hell out of you to have your wife on a call with you when something goes bad. You'd just be worried. To me, it's always thought that was kind of strange.
They're on a call with her. That's one thing. But right now, I don't know how familiar y'all are with what the Texas Parks and Wildlife is doing along as far as Border Patrol.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
But, going down doing Border Patrol now, and I'm sure that they don't get to go together. Mm-mm. So if I'm back in East Texas and my wife's down in Del Rio on the no, I'd be a nervous wreck. That was.
When did they start doing that? Was there a year that you remember where it's like, okay, we're going to start splitting time, or not splitting time, but everybody's going to go?
How long's Ronnie been retired? They were doing it when he was here. 10, 15 years.
You talking about the Border?
Yes.
I don't know, probably for the last, probably started 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Oh, it's longer than that.
And it was, the scope was kind of limited at first. But now it's like I got off the phone right before we started this podcast. That I got off of the game warden who's down there on the boat right now. They're going back to back to back.
What was he? He's on the river down there, or what's he on? Or Big Lake?
He's down Border Patrol assignment on the river. Yeah.
For everybody our podcast is big everywhere. Not just Texas, it's everywhere. And the people up north in different places, they have no idea how bad the border is.
Abbott's kind of giving them a taste.
Now that New York City's getting all these, they're busting everybody in New York City, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, these ain't quality people. No shit. They're drug cartel people, a lot of them. You think they're shipping over,
They're not shipping over
accountants and doctors, And
another thing people realize either, they think it's everybody's coming from Mexico or Central America. I've arrested Chinese, Pakistanis, just you name it. Every variety of human that coming from every country on the face of earth are coming across that border. And I will say this, if people really could go down there for themselves and see what's going on, that'd be a big outcry. But a lot of people are just going on with their daily lives and says, well, it's not affecting me, so they don't really pay attention, but they need to, because it's unbelievable what's going on down there.
Well, and it's a human rights issue too. And I've talked about this several times on this podcast. The conditions that these people are treated when they're coming up, it's barbaric. The women are raped most of the time when they come up here. A lot of them are beaten, and a lot of them, there's a majority of them that once they get here, they get held hostage for more money. So in my mind, it is a big. You got all these liberals that are just screaming about women's rights and all these different rights. Well, the border it stops it. It's a human rights issue. And everybody, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, if you go down there and see the conditions that these people have been getting brought up in, it's subhuman.
Yep. Been there, done that. You're right.
And just the way anybody, I just think that if we stopped it all and just cut that, if there was a way, stop it all, maybe a wall. I don't know.
That would be a really cool concept.
I'm not that smart of a guy, but maybe a wall would work. I don't know. But it's just people, like you said, they just go on with their daily life. It's not my problem. It's Texas problem. And like, we're in North Texas. So what? We're 10 hours from the border if we wanted to get down there. So even we're a long way away, and we're in Texas.
Oh, we could be.
Imagine living in upstate New York. You don't give a shit about what's going on down there.
I've kind of came up with I've changed my tune actually in the last few years. I've come up with my own immigration plan. You give me 2 of those guys down there that want to come across and work, pay their taxes, be a good citizen or whatever. If you'll give me a couple of days to round up about 20 or 25 of these meth heads running around here, we'll just do an even split. And you give me those 2 and I'll give you these 20. And when I'm out of meth heads, everybody's got to stop, stay on the same side of the river. I don't know. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. We could clean up this place and get some hard workers.
Well, and
the people that want to come up here and go to work, nobody has a problem with them.
No.
That's what the people in the media, oh, these are just poor families trying to fix themselves. No, majority of them aren't. I mean, it's single males that are coming up here and they got criminal records and stuff. The good people can do it the right way.
Let me tell you a perfect personal story. I told you I was a police officer when I was in Richardson.
Uh-huh.
I was on afternoon, and I got to chasing these people that had committed some kind of petty crime. I was chasing them around in my police car. I got them stopped on US 75, which is Central Expressway. And I was on the service road. Anyway, I got out to talk to them, and I got their IDs, and I got back into my patrol car, but I was kind of sitting halfway in, halfway out. I had, one leg in the car and one leg out on the pavement. It was during rush hour traffic, and I couldn't hear the radio traffic on my vehicle's radio. So I rolled my window down. I said, y'all don't move. And I picked my leg up, got in the car and shut the door. As soon as I did, I get hit in the rear by a truck going about 80 miles an hour.
Oh, Jesus. Shit.
And it was an illegal alien. And he didn't get a scratch. He jumped out and fled the scene and left me for dead. And it hit my car so hard that it went off of the service road across the grass median out into 75. If that gives you any idea how hard he hit me. Anyway, I stayed a couple of days in Parkland Hospital. They arrested him. The dog tracked him down. They took him to jail. He bonded out the next morning, and they never saw him again.
Of course not.
There's the problem with illegal immigration.
Yeah. You can't hold them
accountable.
accountable.
They said the law, I don't have no use for them.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, they get out on bond, and then that's the last you ever see of them.
Well, then a lot of cities are going to no bail bond. I mean,
yeah, he blew a 191. He was like almost 3 times the legal limit in alcohol. And when he bonded out, he just melted away. And who knows, he may have done it 3 or 4 more times in Texas or California or wherever he's at.
Let's talk about the real side of being a game warden, other than the game violations, the calls you get. In your book, you have a story that's heartbreaking to me, is a call from the wife whose son and dad are missing, doesn't come home on a duck hunt.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality that people don't realize the job y'all do. Everything that's the media, this anti-cop stuff, they don't see the cop going to where a little girl's been raped or a child sex trafficking or a kid living with his mom and she's OD'd and died from fentanyl or whatever. And she sat there and lived in a diaper that hadn't been changed in 3 days. They don't see the stuff you guys see. And that's what pisses me off with our media, is they don't portray police officers the way they should be portrayed. And that's why I like Lone Star Law and I like the Live Patrol, because it's showing that there are bad people out there and the cops are the good guys. But you made a call on a duck hunting call where a father and his son was missing, and you found a 5-year-old boy in a life jacket. That has to be some of the hardest stuff that you could do as a police officer.
That'll bother you. It stays with you for a while. But that call, actually, I can remember that. And my wife's gotten pretty good too. She knows for over the years. I was actually in bed, and my phone went off, and I put it on speakerphone, and the dispatcher was telling me that, hey, this woman's saying her husband and son left at 5 that morning, and it's 8:00 at night now, and they hadn't come home, but their boat is still hooked up behind the truck, but there's no boat on it at the boat ramp. Well, I looked at my wife, she looked at me, we both knew somebody had drowned. I mean, when you get enough of those calls, you just know.
Right.
And I was down there, sure enough, the truck was there with an empty trailer, and in the end of it, father and son drowned while they were duck hunting.
So what do you have? You just have to get out in your boat with a spotlight and start canvassing the area?
Yeah, we didn't have any witnesses, so that's what we did. My partner and I, we spent a couple of hours just looking at which way the wind was blowing, just trying to, piece together what might have happened. And we couldn't find them. And of all things, if you read that story, a dog told us where they were. Mm-hmm. They had a Labrador Retriever in the boat, and he survived. He swam to shore on the opposite shore. And we didn't know this at first, but a deputy went over and talked to a woman that reported this dog acting strange. Well, what the dog was doing, he was on the other bank, and he was constantly barking, running up and down the bank, because his owner, his family, just drowned. And even dogs have got enough sense to know, and he was barking. And when the deputy told us about this dog, I called the woman who reported her husband missing. I said, did they have a dog with them? She said, yes, our Labrador Retriever. I asked the deputy, what kind of dog was that on the other side? And he said, Labrador Retriever. And me and Gary Miller, my partner, instantly we knew that dog was trying to tell us something. So we put our boat on a course to go across the lake to the sound of the dog barking. And it's pitch black, but we're going towards the sound of that dog barking, and we get in some of the stumps, and I found the little boy up on a stump, drowned. And the next morning, we find his dad about 20 feet away. So, yeah, that dog was the only reason we found him when we did.
And the son was wearing a life jacket. Was the dad wearing one?
He was not.
So
the son, I don't think the son was wearing one either.
A life jacket either.
But it wasn't a life jacket. And I have a theory.
Yeah.
I don't know this because the stump was only sticking out of the water 7 or 8 inches. I have a theory that the father was trying to save his son, and so he placed him up on the stump trying to get him out of the water. And just the wind got up, and there was a lot of wave action. And I think the kid actually drowned while he was pivoting up on top of that log.
Gee, so he had to see his dad probably pass away.
Probably so, yeah. But I don't know what happened, but I that's kind of a theory I have.
What's your theory on what do you think happened out there?
Well, the dad has passed on now, so I don't want to place too much blame, but there were a lot of problems. They lost the boat in a severe thunderstorm. The boat was only like a little bitty 10-foot John boat, and it was way overloaded, and there were some other problems, and it was just a perfect storm. They shouldn't have launched when they did.
Right. Bad decisions.
Right. So it wasn't a big hunting day, and there weren't a whole lot of people on the water. So yeah, that's tough. Jeff's dad, my grandfather Ron, he's a retired firefighter, and that's what he said. The kids were always what bothered him the most. You know, knocking down a door and there's a baby in a crib that died of smoke inhalation and stuff like that. And he said that's what he took. He had a great career, and but he just said it took a while. It takes a while to see these things.
He was no fun for me when I was a teenager. By God, you don't need to be out riding around. You need to do this. You can't do this. He scared me to death of motorcycles. He called them murder cycles. I'll never own a motorcycle because he instilled that to me when I was little, how bad they are, because he'd been to a ton of motorcycle wrecks. So,
well, he's a wise man.
Yeah, you don't have to go to very many motorcycle wrecks to know that it's not really good for the person that's not on the back. On the back if there's an accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it never works out well for that person.
Tell us about your books. Where can people find your books? And you got a website or anything?
If you don't mind, there are the covers so you can recognize them. This first book is Tales of a Texas Game Warden. And then the companion book is Campfire Confessions. And real short, when I wrote that first book, it was I just wanted to put my stories down on paper for my grandkids, friends, or whatever. And then I decided to turn it into a book. I self-published it, put it out there, and it was a great success. And everybody that bought it told me the same thing. It was too short. It's too short. Well, I want another book. So I had plenty of stories left. So I said, okay, we'll do another book. And it's been a success also. So
you said the guy that hit you was 3 times the legal limit. What's the highest somebody's blown that you've been around to see?
Probably him. 1.91, I believe is what it was. And I didn't get to see it. I was in Parkland Hospital. Right. But they told me we've as game wardens, we've arrested some BWIs that were hovering around 2. And that's almost alcohol poisoning. That's and when you get that much alcohol in your system, you need a hospital, not a jail.
Are they functioning?
We had somebody at 2.4 here not long ago.
I think I remember that.
Yep.
I think they said he should have been dead.
0.24.
Yeah, that's bad. How you even start a car, much less drive it? I don't know.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Especially on a boat or something. How are you even have any facilities left to start the boat and even get somewhere close to where you're going to go? And how is nobody else on the boat wait a second, I'm a little bit better than him?
Yeah, it's beyond me. I don't know.
2. I can't. That's like an all day.
That's fucked up.
That's a lot of.
When you worked in Dalhart, you talked about seeing the Northern Lights. Did you only see them one time when you were up there?
Only once.
I've seen them.
It was pretty.
It is. I saw them in Minnesota one time, 2 nights in a row while we were up there, but nowhere else have I ever seen them. And it's amazing.
I've actually seen them twice in my life. Once my wife and I were going to a football game in Honey Grove, Texas, and we looked up and I thought it was a fire on the horizon. And I got to looking and then I realized what it was. And I told her, and we got out of the car and looked at it, and it's pretty cool. But the one in Diehard, I was out working late at night, and I was just sitting in my patrol truck, and I happened to look to my left, and man, it was beautiful. It was it was changing colors. It went from a pink to a kind of a green and back to pink, and it looked like a curtain in the sky.
Yeah.
And it was pretty neat. And I was the only one there to see it. I didn't have any friends or, anybody to show it to. It was just, I sat there and got a show for about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then it went away.
That's crazy. Game wardens have it harder now with these, night vision and infrared and all that stuff. Back in your day, you had a calling card. The spotlight went up and you knew there was some fuckery going on. Now it's all night vision stuff.
Yeah, but there's still, if you're backed up in a grove of trees and you're on a lonely dirt road and you see a car come there and hit his brake lights, go down about 100 brake lights, go down 100 yards, hit his brake lights, he's got a thermal. Go stop him.
Yeah.
It's, every form of breaking the law has its little indicators.
Everything's got its calling card. You just got to know what you're looking for.
I was, the first time I ever stopped anybody with a thermal, I'd never even heard of them. I didn't know anything about it. It was new to me. And I was sitting on the side of a road at a place where deer bedded down, and this truck came over the hill and he didn't have his lights on, and he stopped. And I said, what is he doing? And he pulled up and he stopped again. Then he backed up and then he pulled forward again. And now he's almost like sitting right in front of me. So they're just sitting there with the engine running. So I didn't know what they were doing. I thought he was drunk, whatever. I walked through the ditch and I walked up and they had the windows rolled down. And I actually walked right up and put my hands on the window and shined my light in there, scared the hell out of it. And a weird contraption. And it wasn't even one of the ones you could buy. What it was, they worked for a utility company, and they had this device. It's a FLIR. I mean, I think that's what they call it. It's where they go out and look for like electrical leaks on lines. I mean, they can hold it up at a high line and see if there's an electrical charge or a heat escaping or whatever. But they could also detect, a warm body out in the field, and they were using that equipment that they used during their job to hunt with. And then I don't know. 5 years after that, those things hit the market and just exploded.
Did you give them guys a ticket that night?
That's a good story. I gave them 2 tickets apiece. I don't remember exactly what the violation was, but they were happy to not go to jail. But I took a picture on my cell phone of the little contraption he had, and little did I know, but that was going to come in handy because about 2 weeks later, I was up at the judge's office, and he said, yeah, that guy's called in, and they pled not guilty, and they want a trial. And I said, oh, really? So I went out and called one of them. I got him on the phone. I said, I understand you're not guilty. He said, nah, we wasn't hunting. You can't prove we were hunting. I said, yeah, that may be true, but guess where I'm going when I hang up the phone? He goes, where? And I said, I'm going to your employer, and I'm going to show him this picture of how you're using his equipment. He said, you wouldn't do that. I said, you'll find out in 30 minutes. And I hung up. And I waited about 10 minutes, and I called the judge back. And he said, hey, those guys just now called and want to know how they could pay their fines.
So you never did call their employer?
So, yeah, they thought they were smart, but a little arm twisting convinced them to just go down there and take responsibility for what they were doing.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, I'm sure they could have gotten a whole lot of trouble with their boss.
They would have got fired, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did just let him go. So how are you liking the retire? You said you're still kind of a reserve. Is this better than just quitting just like ripping a Band-Aid off? You still kind of get to go out and have a little bit of fun?
Not really. I mean, I'm not on active duty in any way or any form, or I don't go out on patrol. But I've been in a couple of arrests and a couple of, pretty good cases since retiring, just things that I saw and called the local game warden, and together I went and said, hey, look at what I'm looking at. And he shows up and, oh yeah, he needs to be under arrest. So there was a big dumping case that ended up at in court. And then I told you about the one here just in the last couple of months where the guy cut the lock off of a gate and was trespassing. And I called the game warden, and the guy ran, and we ended up using night vision to go in, and he tried to hide, but pretty soon he figured out every time he would hide behind a bush, we'd show up. He said, they've got some way of knowing where I'm at, so he finally just gave up. And so
what's the dumping case?
Yeah.
What's this dumping case that you just got on?
I was coming home one night, and there was this big tanker truck sitting on the side of the highway at a bridge, and he had this big hose running out of the truck through the ditch under the bridge. And I said, that's a clue. Yeah. So I got out and I walked over, and there was this Hispanic guy, and he was down there, and he was dumping whatever was in that tank right into the creek in the ditch. And I asked him what it was, and he said, it's no problem. And I said, okay, well, we'll figure that out. And I got his ID, and then he said, yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And I go, yeah, maybe you shouldn't. Anyway, I called the local game warden, and he came out there, and it ended up, the guy got fined for illegal dumping into the creek.
Jeez, just screw with the drinking water. It's no big deal.
I don't know. I have no idea. It was a construction company that had some kind of fluid they were using in the back of that truck, and whatever it was, they had some leftover, and he was dumping it.
One thing that we're out here in the boondocks, but what is somebody that shoots a deer in like Dallas County that wants to clean it at home? What do they do with the carcass?
Throw it in the dumpster.
That's it?
Well, why else wouldn't you? I mean,
what can you do?
It's not wanting waste if you throw the carcass after you get the meat off of it.
Oh, I don't know about that. What is that true?
Yeah.
You shoot a deer outside of Dallas County. You want to clean it in your garage.
Do what
you
now?
Shoot a deer out in the country. You have a nice house in Dallas, and you want to clean the deer in your garage.
Highland Park, we'll say.
Okay, sure. Highland Park. What are they supposed to do with the carcass after they've gotten everything?
Throw it in the dumpster.
Well, I'm searching for the word. I'm gonna recuse myself.
Okay.
If I'm in Dallas County, I mean, I'd get rid of it, but I'm not gonna. I don't know. I don't know what I would do, but I might go out and find a place for the coyotes to eat it or something. But yeah. I'm not advising anyone to do anything.
Put it in a trash bag and put it in your dumpster. You're not breaking the law.
You're not breaking any law?
As long as you get the meat off, it's not wanting waste. You're
right.
disposing
You got the head. You're going to get it mounted. You got every ounce of meat that you're going to get. You can put it in the dumpster.
Well, yeah.
That seems a little fishy, Jeff.
What do you do with it out in the country? What makes it illegal here?
We're not hurting anybody out here.
You clean the animal. You got the meat out.
We're not hurting anybody out here.
That's what I mean. I live in the country, so what I do is I take it down and I let the coyotes eat on it or whatever for a while, and ended up burying it or whatever. But yeah, but I don't live in Dallas, and I haven't killed any deer, so I can't tell you what the old boy in Dallas is going to have to do.
First of all, do Dallas game wardens work at all? Hardly, because they got more of them in the big cities. What do? Just work the lakes? They don't have much going on during hunting season. That'd have to be the most boring game warden job in the world.
You'd be really surprised at the opportunities a Dallas County game warden has to enforce Texas Parks and Wildlife laws. Because what people don't know is right on the fringe of Dallas County is where the biggest deer in the state of Texas are. Ooh. End of story.
I didn't know that.
I mean, you can handle. You can talk about Webb County. You can talk about the hill. I'm telling you that in Princeton, Texas, Farmersville, right over here. Rockwall, there are some of the biggest deer in the state of Texas there, and it's bow hunting only. Well, me and you know that somebody sees a deer that's big enough and he can't get to it with a bow, he's going to get to it with something else. So, yeah, game warden that's on his toes and really wants to get out and beat the brush. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's in Dallas County, and he's got all these big lakes. I mean, he wants to go out there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and catch these guys putting out gill net and, pulling in 500 pounds of fish and taking them up to a seafood market up in Dallas. There's work to be done there. It's just, do you want to do it? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can walk the shoreline and write no fishing license tickets, or go out on the lake and write tickets for no personal flotation device. And that's great. That's a law that needs to be enforced. Or you can spend your time out trying to catch the really bad folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a lake game warden, I feel sorry for my game wardens because I know They can't stand 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day, and have to stick it on a lake on a damn hot ass bulletproof vest at PK all day long. That other than the scenery, it would be a horrible time.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was going down to the border when we first started, they decided that it was mandatory that we wore our ballistic vest and a life jacket and our uniform. Ugh. And it was 100 degrees. So, yeah, that was miserable.
Did Ronnie wear a bulletproof vest out here? I think he had to later in his career, but I think when he first started, he didn't even wear a bulletproof vest.
I don't think he wore a bulletproof vest out here much.
But now it's mandated, isn't it? Don't all game wardens have to?
Yeah, but when these game wardens get to be 5 years or 3 years from retiring, and they can retire when they want to, they don't care no more. Unless they have to wear one.
But I remember him as a kid not wearing a bulletproof vest, and I don't know.
Did y'all have to start wearing a bulletproof? Y'all have been required to wear one the whole time you were on, wouldn't
you? Yes and no. They came out when they first came out. They said it was required, and then they backed off of that a little bit. Said it was discretion under certain circumstances. I will tell you that the last 3 years of my career, I didn't wear one. I say I didn't. I did about 25% of the time. If I was going into something like going to the border, I would wear it. If I was going to go out late at night, and I was by myself, I would wear it. But if I was just going to go down here and get on the boat, Lake Tawakoni, and spend 2 or 3 hours checking fishermen, I rolled the dice. I didn't wear it. And my thinking was, what are the chances? Very small. But what are the chances of me falling in the lake and having to swim with that on? I said, there's a bigger chance.
Yes.
So for me, it was one of those personal decisions that where's the bigger risk to me? Someone shooting me and my bulletproof vest stopping the ground, or me falling in the lake and having to swim 200 yards with a bulletproof vest on and all this other stuff. Now, of course, I would have, it is mandatory to wear a life jacket. Right. If you're on the boat. So anyway, it was, I just made the decision the last couple of years that I would wear it, but it was when I thought the danger, the risk to me was high enough to warrant wearing it.
Yeah, I feel bad for our guys because you can see their hunting season ends, end of January is coming, and they're like, I'm about to have to ride around on a fucking boat in July on Texas water, and it is not going to be fun. But I feel bad for them. It's hot.
It is very hot. And early in my career, they gave me a flat bottom. All I had to begin with was an aluminum weld John boat. And of course, it's metal. The hats we were wearing were black, and it was mandatory that we wear those black vests. And man, you get out there and there was no top on that boat, and it was just like you were in an oven. Some of the worst summers I ever got. You go around and look at some of these old game wardens that 70, 80 years old that are still around. They only got half their nose, half their ear, because of so much skin cancer that they've had cut off of their forearms and their nose and their ears and their foreheads.
So when you first got on, what was your standard? What did they give you coming out of the academy? Was it like a radio, a gun, and a badge, or did you have some other fancy stuff? Like now, I mean, they're pretty well stocked up for bear. What did you get?
Well, I came out of the academy driving a Crown Victoria car.
Really? I remember them days.
But I had it for about 2 months, and my new captain said, no. And he finagled around, and somebody was retiring, and he swapped vehicles and got me a truck. And but no, I had a boat. I had access to a 4-wheeler. It wasn't issued to me, but the management area in the county where I was at, they had one that I could use. Full slate of uniforms. We carried a Mini 14 as our duty rifle, a Glock pistol. As far as night vision or anything, I didn't have that. The radios that we had in the truck back then were dinosaurs. Like you had to punch the buttons and dial up a tower, and it was hee-haw. It was hee-haw. But had a handheld radio, but it was only good for 4 or 5 miles. So back then it was the Stone Age compared to what they have now.
Yeah. We had an old highway patrolman out here, and he was talking about working that border area, and a long time ago, it was just, you had your pistol and like you said, that radio that was only good for a couple miles, but you might pull somebody over and shit, who knows where your backup's going to be.
Yeah. The biggest thing you got to keep you healthy and well is your brain. Your experience, and just that little voice tells you something's not right, you better listen to it. It's just your experience and your training and your common sense. I mean, you know, my ballpoint pen was a lot more important to me than my gun. I'd use that thing 50 times a day. I may never touch that gun. But your brain, though, will keep you out of trouble if you'll just listen to that little voice telling you, hey, you better be on your toes. Something's not right here.
Yeah.
And
maybe have this battle another day.
I very rarely had to, draw my service weapon. I did it on occasion, but I never had to use it. And I think because the bad guys knew, they could see in my attitude that he'll use it. So it wasn't that I pulled it out, is that he pulled it out, and damn well I think he'll use it. And that kept me out of a lot of trouble and kept them out of getting hurt.
When did y'all start carrying tasers at the end of your career?
No.
And
to my knowledge, they still don't.
Do they still not?
Some of them do, but you got to get tased if you're going to get tased. If you tase it, you got to get tased.
Other thing, you ain't tasing me. No. They say, well, I said, why would you want to get tased? They said, that's to show you how it feels and how you would react to, how they would react. I said, okay, well, why don't you shoot me with my gun?
Exactly.
I mean, well, you're going to tase me, and if you're going to use that, a way of thinking, then hell, why don't you shoot me in the leg with my gun, see how I react, see how it feels. It didn't make any sense to me.
Because they do the same with pepper spray.
I did get pepper,
right?
Got pepper spray. That was no fun.
Now, you stabbed yourself once.
Yeah, I did.
Not on purpose?
No. It was a very bizarre hunting trip that I went on. I was actually looking for a wounded deer, and I found it, but I didn't bring my rifle with me. And I found the deer, and it was still alive. And a long story short, the only thing I had was a Puma pocket knife. And I don't know, I thought, you know what? It was a big rack. It was a nice trophy deer, and he quit bleeding. And he stood up off the ground and started kind of like making his way away from me. And I thought, if I don't do something, I'm never going to see this deer again because there's no blood trail. So I remembered that pocket knife in my pocket, and I pulled it out and said, hell, I'm going Tarzan. It's fixed to be, I'm fixed to take him down. And I started chasing him through the woods, and closer I got, the faster he ran. And finally I ran out of gas, and I'd been jumping logs and rocks and creeks, and he finally just outran me. And I was bent over, and I was breathing hard. And I was wearing, of all things, a pair of Converse All-Star tennis shoes and a pair of blue jeans. I was looking down, and I noticed the tops of my shoes were red, and I felt something like warm water running down my leg. And I looked, and there was a hole on the inside of my thigh where I'd stabbed myself when I was running through the woods with that knife. And it was just, blood was just pumping out of that hole. It scared me to death because I thought I'd cut an artery. Long story short, I made it to my car, got myself to the hospital, and they had to use staples to close it. But close call.
Son of a bitch. Did they tell you how close you were to like your femoral artery or anything, or were you in no real danger?
Yeah, we never really. He never did talk about it really.
Gee.
All I asked him, I said, "How many stitches is he gonna take, Doc?" And he goes, "This ain't stitches. This is staples." And he got a little gadget and stapled me up.
And
but I do. Let me tell your listening audience, I do not. I would not go chasing a full-grown deer with a pocket knife. It doesn't come out well for you.
No, you're going to get cut regardless. Like, even if you get the animal in a headlock, like the chances of you slitting its throat without cutting into your arm or your hand, or just like you said, your leg, you're probably going to get cut in a knife fight, regardless of if you're the attacker or the attackee. So
yeah, if that tells you anything about the quality of the deer,
it was worth it.
That I decided I was going to kill with a knife. If that tells you anything, there you go.
So did you know at all? Did you feel something, like something hit your leg, or you had absolutely no idea? Tunnel vision, buck fever. I got to get this animal on the ground.
That's how I was just watching him, and like I said, I had tunnel vision. And when I realized that he was gone, I wasn't going to catch him, and I kind of stopped to take a breather. That's when I realized that, I got a problem here. My oil lights.
Yeah. I'm a little squeamish, so that would have probably, I'd have probably passed out, not from blood loss, but just from seeing the freaking blood, and then I'd have bled out. So that'd have been my luck. But Is there any talks about a third book, or is two your limit?
No, actually, I'm working right now on the artwork on a children's book I wrote. And there's a girl that's helping me do the artwork. And I drew the sketches, and she's putting the color to them. And when we get all those together, I'll have the children's book out, hopefully in the next couple of months.
Well, that's awesome, man.
2 or 3 months.
Very good. Very good. And it's just going to be more kind of this stuff, but for children?
Yeah, it's a short book. It's 4 short stories. The pictures are more than the story, actually. I mean, the pictures are, 50% of the content. They're short stories. But, and I haven't decided on a title yet, or I've got some ideas in my mind, but I haven't really decided on a title. But then there is another book that I'm bouncing around in my mind, and that's kind of a weird story. My son gave me a unique, a Father's Day gift. There's a company called Storyworth. And what you do is every Monday they'll send me a question and I answer it. And then at the end of the year, they put it in a hardbound book, and it's kind of like a family heirloom. When it started making me think about that, and so I've kind of kicking around the idea of writing like an autobiography just about my life, because since day one, I've had an interesting life, and some really strange stories and some good stories and some tragic stories or whatever. But I thought, it might be worth a read. So I'm kind of bouncing that around. So maybe that book.
Well, very good. Well, we'll look forward to all those on, and when they get ready to come out, we'll have you back on and talk about them a little bit.
I look forward to it.
It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Benny, we appreciate it.
Looks like cooler weather's on the way, so we're excited. Hunting season's almost here.
If you ever get out this way and you want to come shoot some ducks and geese, holler at us, Benny. We'd love to have you out here. God bless you. I wish you and your family the best, and hope you have a great, great fall.
Thank you very much, guys. It's good talking to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Interesting guy.
Benny Richards.
Very interesting guy. His books are really good. It's an easy read, a quick read.
Find them on Amazon?
Yep, Amazon.
You got yours on Kindle.
I bought it through Amazon. Goes right to my MacBook.
Right, but you can get the paperback.
Yes, you can order paperback too. I don't have no more room for any more books.
Paperback?
No, that's why I've been going everything Kindle. Mom's already gotten rid of some of my books. I got in that closet right there. Mr. Peterman gave me probably 50 books. I've gotten sacks in there, books he gave me.
Do you feel like you retain the information as well on Kindle?
I think so.
You think so?
I do. I read faster on Kindle than I do.
Really?
Yeah, I read a lot faster.
I've wanted to try like audio books, but I'm afraid I would tune out and I wouldn't get.
I do that a lot because I can go down the. You ever drove down the road and you're 10 miles down the road and you're like,
yeah.
What the hell did I just do?
I do that with fantasy football season, so I've been doing that with fantasy football podcast, and I just find myself like tuning out. So then I'm like rewinding a lot. And I think I would do the same with audiobooks. My
audiobook this year is going to be the Bible. I have never read the Bible.
I think that's something you need to read.
I can't read it.
Sure you can.
No, I lose interest.
Sure you can.
No, I can't. I'm telling you.
No,
I've tried to read the Bible since I was a little kid. I cannot. I get about 2 chapters in and I'm done. See, it gets too confusing for me.
Why?
It's just I need a dummy version of the Bible. Then I could read it. Big cricket words be a lot better.
Well, they got that cowboy translation.
I need the dummy version. If they come up with the idiot version for reading the Bible, I'd be all about it. Because Betty bought me a Bible that you read 2 pages a day or something.
Right, and you can get it done. It's more than that.
But whatever it is, Bible in a year or something, and I couldn't. The first part's real good, but I lose interest. After Adam and Eve and all that, I lose interest in it.
Exodus is a good story. I have not read the Bible cover to cover, but Exodus is a good story.
No, maybe I'll read it. But I think if I did it on, they had a really good voice, like Charlton Heston or something doing it, maybe it'd keep me. I lose interest. And that sounds horrible. In Texas, I told Tex I was going to read the Bible this year. That was one of my goals. He texted me the other day. He said, well, yours
Where
halfway.
Are you at?
Halfway over. He said, what part of the book are you on? I said, I'm on page 2.
They've got a queer Bible.
I don't need to read it.
What is in the queer Bible?
I don't have a clue. I guess Adam and Steve instead of Adam and Eve. I don't have a clue.
James Earl Jones reads the Bible.
That I could listen to him. His voice is pretty good. I like his voice. Is that on audio?
It just says bestsellers.
Oh, I may look that up then. But that's the way I'm going to read the Bible, is to listen to someone else read it.
This is Elton John on Divine. Huh.
You know,
I do find it very, this is a
sin is a
review.
sin, and no matter what you do, everyone is sinner. So
This person, Prince Tebbs, gave it 1 star. I do find it very interesting that the very symbol, the rainbow, God depicted as a promise of peace after the flood for the very reason of sexual immorality, is the same symbol the LGBTQ idea has taken as a symbol of pride. Pride, that word says it all. They do not call it love, but pride, yet says it is love. In order for one to know love, they must first know the love of God, and have a relationship with him.
in my mind, I want to think that if you're gay, you can go to heaven because you're a good person.
I think you can.
And so I want to think that because I have some gay people that I'm friends with that are really good people.
You can.
And so I'm hoping that there's not an automatic exodus
What's
out of
the, what's the difference? So it's sexual immorality, right?
Oh, you can go down this rabbit hole. I've done things a whole lot worse than probably what some gay people
Not just
have
that.
done.
What if you're a serial cheater your entire marriage? Is that any different than being homosexual? I don't think so.
No, I mean, sin is a sin.
Right.
You know, I do want to think there's a special place in heaven and hell. I mean, for Charles Manson. No. But if he did forgive him, to ask for forgiveness,
Tex Watson will be there with us.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean.
Tex Watson, if you believe what is said, we might our house might be right next to Texas, and we can ask, what did Sharon Tate say whenever you were sticking that knife in her for 75 times or whatever?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not.
And then we'll just have a good old chuckle after, I guess. I don't know.
Have
That's Sharon.
Have you seen the newest or the next conspiracy theory? Anne Hesh.
Oh, was she outing some?
She's got a series fixing to come out on the pedophilia in Hollywood.
Oh. They always say that. If any A-list star, not even A-list star, if any star dies at an early age, it was...
Well, she wasn't early age. She was my age. It's not
53,
early.
that's pretty early.
Well, that's...
Chester Benning...
Maybe she shouldn't have been doing drugs and driving 85 miles an hour through her house.
She had done a podcast, I think.
And was talking about she probably shouldn't be driving.
Oh, really?
That's what I was told.
I didn't hear that.
Because she was fucked up on some stuff.
But they said the same thing about Anthony Bourdain. They all said, no, that's not true. Chester Bennington,
I just said the newest conspiracy theory.
Right.
So who knows?
But anytime anybody dies, they were about to out the deep state.
Well, they said she died, but then she raised herself up off the gurney. Well, yeah, she was burned.
Right.
I saw the video of her raising herself up.
That was crazy.
Yeah, it's just a screwed up deal. But
they thought she was dead, and she just whoop. It's crazy. Poor Anne Hesh. I don't know what her blood alcohol level was, but I'm assuming
I don't think it was just
high.
blood alcohol.
I think it was a little.
I think she had a little bit of something else in her system.
Here's my problem. Marshawn Lynch was arrested over the weekend
For stealing a car.
I did not know.
That's what I saw. They said it was a stolen car too. Why is he stealing a car?
DUI.
He should start using some of that money he got paid instead of just sitting on it.
No, it's DUI. Anyway, Marshawn Lynch gets arrested for DUI. We have the footage the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Pelosi still don't see it.
Well, yeah, because Marshawn Lynch isn't sleeping with Nancy Pelosi. Thank God for Marshawn Lynch on that. Let me tell you something. The Pelosi's are as bad. That whole syndicate up there with all them people. Not one side. It's not just Democrat. They're just crooked as shit.
Told police he stole a car and the vehicle was missing a tire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Former Seahawks running back Marshawn Lynch is facing multiple charges, including suspicion of DUI after being arrested in Vegas. And let me tell you something else. The balls on that officer to pull his ass out of the car.
They deal with people like that all the time.
Yeah, but he's pretty fucking stout.
Well, it's a good thing he didn't fight her. It would have been really worse.
I mean, yeah, obviously. But, I mean, he...
How about the poor coach in Dallas? Did you see the Lancaster, the youth football coach? Yeah, youth football coach, 9 and under, flag football deal. Aqib Talib, remember him? Played for the Patriots stuff. He was running a league. His brother and him getting an argument with some guy, and his brother shooting kills the guy in the middle of a fucking football game at 3:00 in the afternoon. All the kids had to go there and watch his dad. 9-year-old boy had to watch his dad bleed out and die over a freaking youth football from a guy whose the brother's the one that pulled the trigger. You played in the NFL,
right?
You got Super Bowl rings. Why are you arguing over a damn 9-year-old youth And let me say something. I'm a hypocrite to say I've never argued about youth sports. There's a big difference between arguing and someone pulling a freaking gun. Thing is, if you've got problems emotionally and you have anger issues, don't carry a freaking gun. That's your problem. If you'd kept the gun at the house, you might have got your ass whooped, or he might have got his ass whooped. That'd be the end of it. Nobody can take an ass whooping no more anymore.
The car was missing its front wheel and rim on the driver's side, and the front passenger side wheel had almost completely fallen off also. So he was about to just be on two wheels.
I've seen someone do that before. I saw a dude. I was in bed one night. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I heard this ruckus. I was 21 years old, and I heard this enough that woke me up. And I looked out the window, and my neighbor guy was driving down the road, and all 4 tires were flat. He's got sparks shooting off his tires and shit. Pulled in his driveway. Next morning, I was going to work. I look at him. He comes out. He's like this. He's looking at his tires like, what the fuck did I do last night?
He is fucked up like Chuck there. Holy cow. Told the cops he doesn't drink and he doesn't do drugs.
What did he do that night?
I don't know.
He had a bad something or another.
Is he the one that punched the kid? No, I'm thinking of LeGarrette Blount. Different case.
Yes, LeGarrette Blount's the one that punched the guy.
He knocked him out smooth out.
Yep. And Joe Mixon's the one that punched the girl.
Yeah. Late round pick, Jeff. Good value in Joe Mixon this year.
Yes, there is.
Does he want to hit a couple bitches? Yeah, maybe every once in a while. LeGarrette Blount said that guy used the unmentionable word, and he cold cocked him.
The N-word?
Said the N-word is what LeGarrette Blount says.
What's the story with Mike Gundy at OU?
What do you mean?
Mike Gundy is assistant coach there. He picked up an iPad in a meeting. The kid was not paying attention and read it out loud. Supposedly he used the N-word and he had to resign.
I don't know.
Now,
I hadn't heard that.
Joe Mixon and DeMarco Murray both come out and
said he wouldn't do that,
and said that he's a great guy and he wouldn't. If it wouldn't have been for that, he wouldn't have done it.
Marshawn stole the golf cart, right? Isn't that what it was? He's trying to fight he's going to fight the whole stadium.
Yeah, I think he had some anger issues.
Which one?
LeGarrette Blount.
Well, Jeff, he plays. Here it is. Is this not it?
No, they're not going to show him punching the guy.
Here it is. There it is, right there. I mean, pop, Gonzo. I really like Deuce Staley on the new Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I do too.
He is not a fan of flatulence.
Him and Aaron Glenn are hilarious, talking that shit back and forth.
Oh, just cold cock that kid. But yeah, Deuce Staley, he's been pretty cool.
You're real chicken shit when you hit somebody and you got your helmet on, though.
I don't think. What are you gonna do? Take your helmet off? The guy just said if what he says is true, which I don't know that it isn't. The guy called you that name. You're not gonna take your helmet off. You're just gonna fucking punch him.
I don't know if he called him that or not. I mean,
well, of
do
course
you think that what's the kid's name at Pittsburgh, their quarterback, Mason Rudolph? Do you think he called what's his name that?
Myles Garrett?
I don't think so.
I have a hard time believing it. But
yeah,
I wasn't there.
I think it's an excuse for a bad action sometimes. That's the automatic get out of free jail card sometimes, and that's not right. If a kid did do it, he deserved to get his ass knocked out. But I don't, who knows?
I saw this the other day, and it just tickled
Your
the
buddy
shit
John
out of
Roberts
me.
was right there.
This just tickled the fucking shit out of me.
That guy's rich now.
Watch this. Ooh, watch this one guy. Oh, fuck. The guy on the golf cart bails.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys golf cart. You got to check it out. But watch this guy that it hits first. Kapow! Had to have broken some legs. Broken limbs. The guy in the red.
Would you take that right now?
What?
That accident happened to you.
Where's John at?
He's right there pulling the stretcher up there.
Didn't show him.
Yeah, it does.
I couldn't recognize him. He was there for that?
Well, yeah, he was at all the games.
The guy, this one guy loses his shoe. You see his shoe, a bunch of shoes. The one guy, look at him. He runs up. Here he comes. He busts his ass. Fucking shit. I want to know what the guy in the golf cart was thinking. Like, oh, I got to get out of here. What a time to be alive.
Whose fault was it?
Yeah, I guess a pylon.
Can you imagine got through that pylon in there? Oh, shit. Rick Reed did it.
Just saw it going.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's Big John right there.
God almighty.
I I saw a guy playing a golf tournament one time. He was shit happened to him all the time. He's playing golf and he gets his beer cooler out there and he throws the beer cooler in the golf cart and he hits the gas pedal. Brand new fucking Cadillac at another end of the parking lot. Jeez. Golf cart T-bones that son bitch going full blast. Hits it and don't just hit the front quarter panel. Then it turns and goes down both the door and everything. Just, took paint off the whole time.
Gosh almighty.
All right, we got Lee and Luke on Wednesday. Me and Andy will be at Game Fair. Come by and see us. We'll be either with Pacific, Boss, Dirty Duck, Gun Dog. Who else is there?
Dive Bomb will be there.
Dive Bomb. We'll be with the sponsors. We'll be bouncing around. Andy will be the one with the crowd around him.
Nope.
Signing autographs and drinking beer with everybody. I'll be the quiet guy in the back. Anyways, holler at us. Look forward to it. Thank you. God bless y'all and have a great week.
Check out all of our sponsors. Go check out the Looking Glass Duck Club podcast. Get signed up on their Patreon account. Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Lucky Duck, Shin Gear Waders, Gundog Outdoors, Boss Shot Shells, Dive Bomb Industries, Gundog, Bangtail Whiskey, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, and Double T British Kennels.